Everyone is welcome here, it's time to make new friends. Aquavide, Uskava, fill your Glencairn. Share a dram with the spirit of Edmonton. Slancha!
Good evening, whiskey brothers, whiskey sisters, and whiskey friends, and welcome to episode 31 of the Canadian Whisky Journey's Whiskey Review. I'm Dolph, I'm your host tonight, and I'm usually joined by Blair Phillips, co-author to the Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries, but he's feeling a little bit under the weather right now, so we're sending our well wishes, our hopes that he feels better, and I hope he's sitting right beside me next week, and I'm assuming he's going to be. Well, what we're doing now is we're continuing our Canadian Whisky Journey with this one right here. Right there. See that? Marshmallows over a Campfire. Marshmallows over a Campfire is release number 2. And this one, like the other, just a cast strength. Little bit of background, guys, is this the first one I saw. And I got to thank Trenny and C for this because they were the first ones to introduce this bottle right here. Let's get a little look at it. And no, it's not it. There we go. That one. Cigarettes on a leather jacket. So this was the first time I'd ever heard of them, really. It was through Trenny and C. They hooked me up with it. Well, they didn't hook me up. They showed it. I looked at it. I tried to get the bottle. I couldn't get the bottle. It was done. But then I got in contact with James Lester, and he's the distillery owner of this distillery. And what's the distillery called? Right there, Sons of Vancouver. And I got a couple more pictures to show you because what I did is I set this up. I talked to him. And this is James here. I asked him if I could visit. So I went down in July with my buddy Nick. We did a road trip in BC, saw a lot of distilleries, a lot. We saw 8 distilleries. We had a phenomenal time. And we ended up here. And let's just give this a little look-see. This place is fantastic. I love it. And when you're in there, you really get the sense that this is a homegrown place. This is a place that he built with his 2 hands, and he's proud of it. So we had a fantastic time. We talked about his bartending days in Australia. We talked about his hands-on education just south of the border, and it was a great afternoon. From having him describe the column still, the heat exchanger that he had a part in building with his own hands, right? To visiting a neighboring distillery. So just out back across the laneway, he helped out this other distillery. So we go in there and we see some really cool things that they're doing there. And then we have lunch at the pasta truck out back, which I think his girlfriend owns. Doesn't matter. It's all fantastic. And we had fun hanging out in the tasting room in this lounge. And I talked to him for a little while. I interviewed him and I asked him tons of questions. And that's the thing about these distilleries. If it's a distillery that I don't know, our Canadian distilleries, they're beautiful people. We go to them, we ask them questions, and they're willing to spend time with you. If you are interested in their juice, and I was interested in the juice, they're there. They're going to talk to you for a while. And whatever questions you have, no matter how stupid you think the questions are or limiting, they're going to take the time to really talk to you. So, that was it. It was fantastic. I went there, bought Amaretto bottle, signed it for my wife because I wasn't there with her, and says, thank you, Laura, for allowing Dolph to spend money at our distillery. James, it's good. And P.S., please come with them next time. So hopefully Laura comes with me next time. And this is important. This is an Amaretto bottle. And this is barrel-aged Amaretto bottle. And what's really important about that is that this whiskey is made up with 4-year-old rye that was aged in Amaretto bottles or barrels, I should say. And this is a truly Canadian way to make it because, I'll read you the quote first of all. It is the second release. It's 98. Sorry, this is how they describe it on the back of the label. I said, second whiskey release. It is 98% rye grain, 2% malted barley, fermented with French Saison yeast, aged in used Amaretto casks, and finished in wonderfully stinky, peaty Ardbeg barrels. I added the wonderfully because I think it is. But there's a bit of extra information. So I got this extra information from James. They blend this like an actual Canadian distillery. So there's no mash bill where it's 98% rye and 2% barley. What they do is they mature it individually. So it was in a cask, 100% rye in this cask. And then they took a portion of that cask and they put it into an Ardbeg barrel. And they did this for 2 months, and that's enough. He said it imparted a flavor really quickly. So he didn't want it in there too long. And I agree with him. And talking to Dr. Don in the past, you see that 200 days is the maximum you need to put something into a barrel to finish it, to impart the flavors in the barrel. So 200 days. This wasn't quite 200 days, 60 days, obviously. But I think he did a good job. But when we get into the tasting notes in a bit, the peat is subtle, and that's the way he wanted it. Although I personally love a heavy peat with a heavy rye, but I don't know if I could handle it. Like I'm not a blender. He's the blender. This is what he thought was best. So he took his 100% rye in the amaretto barrel, put some in the Ardbeg cask, matured it for 2 months, blended those two together, and then those two with some single malt was blended into a barrel so that the total amount within this barrel blended together like a regular Canadian whiskey, 2% malted barley, 98% rye. Some of it from the Ardbeg barrel, all of it originating from the amaretto barrel. And this is important when you do the tasting notes, just kind of understand what's going on with it, because the amaretto comes through. So more information with this. It's 59.5%. It was bottled in 2021. It was released in November. I got my two right away, so I bought these two. I went online, and you have to go online for these guys. You have to know when the whiskey's coming out, and if you're on their email list, you're going to find out prior to the whiskey coming out, or the rye in this case. But you got to be on the ball. You got to be on the ball to actually order it and get in there right away, because they sell out. Cigarettes on a leather jacket. By the time I looked at it after Trendy and C, done. And they've been off the market. I think it was December it was gone. So I think 2 weeks it was on the market. And price-wise, $90, I think, is what's so $180, but well worth it, because what I do, it's always one to open and share. The other one I keep for Alberta Scotch Society tasting. So this will be a tasting one in the future. All right. So thank you very much. Let's do the nose. And I've got two. So I've got no water. That's it. I'm double fisting like I usually do. I love doing that. Makes me feel good. And on the nose, and just like most ryes, you get that rye, the hit of spice. But what comes out first is not the rye spice, but it's the sweetness. And the amaretto casks in 4 years imparted a huge amount of sweetness. And talking to Davin de Cargemont, he says within a regular barrel, you can get up to 8 liters of the previous alcohol in it if it's a wet barrel. And Dr. Don said 4 to 6, so they disputed a bit, but I don't know if they're talking about barrels the same size. I'm assuming it's 200-liter barrels, but maybe Davin's talking about a butt or something else. But let's follow Dr. Don, go right in the middle. 6 liters of amaretto in the barrel mixed in with this beautiful rye, and the sweetness is the first thing that comes through for me. It's not the rye spice. That's good and bad for people. I love the rye spice. It comes through on the palate, but right now on the nose, you're getting this. You're getting the sweetness. You're getting a slight amount of floral. With water, the floral comes through more, and so does the fruit. So on here with the fruit now, a little bit of citrus. And I'm going to say maybe tangerine on the nose for the sweetness. That's the fruit that's coming through. The floral, I can't really peg it. I would say heathery grass or dry hay, heather, something like that's coming through. It's not really... No, it's a little bit more flowery than that. Sorry, it's more than herbal. It's flowery. Yeah. Here we go. Let's go on the palate. Oh, and no peat on the nose. The peat didn't come through on the nose. Okay, and I tried this last night, and that surprised me. I was expecting it. So the peat's not on the nose.
That's full strength.
And this one is full strength in the water. It comes through, and it is viscous like you wouldn't believe. This has got a beautiful mouthfeel, and it just coats the throat. And because of that, the heat of the what percent of the 59.5% does not hit you. It doesn't hit you like a 59.5. And if you've watched this before, you know I like my single cast strength, and the heat comes through. I love them around 60%. That's usually my thing. This is right my wheelhouse. But this feels less heat than that because of the viscosity. It's rich, it's thick that way. And I'm guessing that's the amaretto cask coming through. Okay, onto the watered one. And with the water, if you're looking at what I have, and if you're used to Glencairns, what I have in here is roughly 5 mils. So, and yeah, this is lovely. The water loses the viscosity, but you're able to taste the, I'm going to say heather and hen, but there is a type of vegetal in there that I'm not getting, a flowery element. I don't want to say soap because that puts people off, but there's a smell of that purpley flower that you, lavender. Did it. Tide. Lavender. No, we're lavender.
It's like tide.
Yeah. With the water, you get the lavender, but you lose the mouthfeel. Not completely. And the Ardbeg cask does not come out on the palate until the end. So you're looking, we're going to talk about the finish now, and the finish is where it comes. This is where that dirty peat, that Ardbeg dirty peat comes out that I love so much. And I am an Ardbeg fan. You see a little Ardbeg fan, and I'm a committee guy that I like it cast strength. I like the peat. I like it so much. And so many of you out there are as well. And you're not going to be disappointed on this on the finish. That's where you're going to get it. You're not going to get it on the nose where you might have expected it. The palate is so much spice in here. I'm not going to say heat. I'm going to say spice because the viscosity reduces the heat, ups the spice. In the watered, we're getting the spice, we're getting the floral, we're getting the, I'm going to say orange tangerine. That's the fruit, but that's a minor one. The lavender comes out just as much as the fruit. The sweetness, in as much as it's just a sweetness that comes through, as almost a honey sweetness, is there, more prevalent on the watered. But I'm going for the cast strength. That's the one I like the most, just because I'm a fan of the mouthfeel. I love the heat, but how the heat is subdued at the back of the throat and you don't get tons with it. I love that. And, well, Stephen, how you doing, Mr. Schwartz? Glad to see you. More BC people out there. And, yeah, this is lovely. So if you can see this from anybody out there, if you get a friend that might have a bottle, or they bought 2 bottles and they don't know if they want to open it, get one. Take it. Do whatever it takes to do this. But I do suggest that you go online and you become part of their email list. And this is the best way to do it. And then you get the updates, what's coming out. And their next one coming out is this spring, and it's a high rye. I talked to Mr. Lester, so I talked to James today. High rye. He doesn't have a name for it. But I said maybe you could call it Dolph's Mistress, because I love my cast strength rest. My wife is laughing in the back, but I think it should. Dolph's Mistress. It'd be fantastic. Nope. I'll buy like 10.
No.
And I'll pass it on to all my friends.
No.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
If you're interested in rye.
Yes. And that's why I'm doing rye. I'm going to do a couple ryes this month because I'm interviewing Carlo DeVito, and he did the Spirit of Rye, and this is a massive tome. So the Whiskey Book Club, which I do every Saturday, it's this month. It's devoted to rye, and we're learning about rye through the States and Canada. And I have to send him a sample of this, and not just a little sample, like a 4-ouncer. He needs to spend a little bit of time with this, and I'm sure Carlo will appreciate it. But if you have time, maybe you check us out online. Carlo DeVito, The Spirit of Rye. Come back and see me next Tuesday. Like, subscribe. Blair, if you're watching, I think you are. Hopefully you feel better. And slancha to every one of you out there. Have a fantastic day, and we will see you next Tuesday. Cheers.
And Saturday for the book club.
And Saturday for the book club. Bye, guys. Ciao.